Welcome to Cleared for Takeoff, brought to you by Viera Tech, your go-to podcast for aviation news, special topics, and beyond. Let's soar into the stories shaping the skies. Strap in as Brian and Jen provide an interesting take on engine MROs.
Welcome back, Deep Divers. Today we're going to take a look at something that's pretty critical if you've ever enjoyed taking off in an airplane.
Yeah, I think everyone enjoys that part.
Right. The heart of it all, really. Commercial aviation engine MRO.
Ah, yeah.
That's maintenance, repair, and overhaul for those of us who don't speak aviation every day.
It's quite a mouthful.
It is. So we've got a few reports and analyses we'll be going through. If you've ever wondered how those massive engines keep planes up in the air safely, you've come to the right place.
It really is amazing when you think about it. Such complex systems with so many moving parts, all working together perfectly.
Right. So to kick things off, let's talk about the sheer size of this market.
Okay, sounds good.
The reports show that in 2022, the global MRO market was valued at, wait for it, $37.56 billion US.
Wow, that's a lot of money.
And get this, by 2030, it's projected to reach a mind-blowing $58.16 billion.
That's some serious growth.
Nearly a 4.7% compound annual growth rate.
So even after that hit the aviation industry took from the COVID-19 pandemic, we're seeing some impressive resilience here.
Definitely. The pandemic was a huge shock to the system. But these reports suggest that the demand for air travel, well, it's back, and it's not going anywhere.
Yeah, in fact, passenger traffic in 2022 rebounded to almost 96% of pre-pandemic levels.
So it seems like people are eager to get back in the air.
Absolutely. But what's really interesting is that the market growth we're seeing, it's not just about recovering from the pandemic.
Okay, so what else is going on?
It's like there are several trends all converging at the same time.
A perfect storm for MRO.
You could say that. It's creating a really unique situation in the market.
Okay, I'm all ears. Let's break down these trends. What's fueling this growth?
Well, the most obvious driver is the increasing demand for air travel. Think about it. How often do you fly now compared to, say, 10 years ago?
Oh, way more. I think I flew maybe twice a year back then? Now it's like every other month at least.
Right. And you're not alone. More and more people are flying these days.
Yeah, it seems like it's become more affordable and accessible.
Exactly. And as more people fly, airlines need more planes. And of course, all those planes need regular maintenance and repairs.
So more passengers equal more MRO?
Pretty much. But it's not just about the number of planes in the sky. We also have to consider the age of the global aircraft fleet.
Right, I read something about that. Many planes currently in operation are getting up there in age.
They are. And as planes get older, they require more frequent and more complex maintenance to stay safe and airworthy.
So it's like an older car, it needs more trips to the mechanic.
Exactly. That's a good way to put it. This aging fleet is a major factor in the MRO market's expansion.
Okay, so we've got more planes and older planes. A double whammy for MRO demand.
Exactly. But wait, there's more. We also have the constant evolution of engine technology to consider.
Oh, right. Those new, more fuel-efficient and environmentally friendly engines.
Exactly. They're great for reducing emissions and fuel consumption, but they also require specialized MRO services.
Makes sense. You can't just take a cutting-edge engine to any mechanic.
Nope, you need experts trained on those specific systems.
So it's like taking your car to the dealership for specialized repairs.
Perfect analogy. And finally, we can't forget about safety regulations.
Right, those stringent requirements from aviation authorities.
Exactly. Those regulations mandate regular inspections and maintenance to ensure passenger safety. And that, of course, adds to the demand for MRO services.
Well, it's reassuring to know that safety is a top priority in the industry.
Absolutely. So to recap, we have increasing air travel, an aging global fleet, the continuous development of new engine technologies, and strict safety regulations, all contributing to the MRO market's growth.
It's like a perfect storm of factors driving this industry forward.
That's one way to put it. But here's the thing. The market's growth isn't the only thing that's exciting. We're also seeing some pretty remarkable trends emerging, trends that are transforming the whole MRO landscape.
Oh, really? Trends. Okay, now you've got my attention. Spill the beans.
Well, one of the most prominent trends is the rise of outsourcing. More and more airlines are choosing to outsource their MRO services to specialized providers instead of handling everything in-house.
Interesting. But doesn't that seem risky, relying on someone else for something so critical?
I can see why you'd think that. But there's some strong reasons why airlines are making this choice.
Okay, I'm listening.
Well, these specialized MRO providers, They often have greater level of expertise and more advanced infrastructure.
I guess that makes sense.
And they can achieve economies of scale that would be really difficult for airlines to replicate on their own.
So airlines can focus on what they do best, like managing routes and customer service.
Exactly. And leave the complex world of engine maintenance to the experts.
It's about playing to your strengths, right? But what about quality control when you're outsourcing? How do you ensure things are done right?
That's a great question. And it's where things get really interesting. Outsourcing isn't just about handing off a task. It's about forming strategic partnerships.
Okay, so it's about choosing the right partners.
Exactly. Airlines are very careful about selecting providers with a proven track record, providers who are committed to quality and safety.
So it's about trust and due diligence.
Absolutely. And this trend of outsourcing, it's closely linked to another big shift.
Which is?
The integration of, well, some really amazing technology into MRO operations.
You're talking about artificial intelligence, augmented reality, all that stuff.
All of that. AI, AR, the Internet of Things, you name it. These technologies are changing how engines are maintained and repaired.
I can imagine. It's like something out of a sci-fi movie.
It kind of is. Imagine, for example, using AI systems to analyze tons of data from engine sensors.
To predict when maintenance is needed.
Exactly. You could address potential issues before they even become problems.
That's incredible. So instead of waiting for something to break, you can stay ahead of the game?
Precisely. It's called predictive maintenance, and it's a game changer for airlines. Minimizes downtime, reduces costs, and enhances safety.
Wow, that sounds super efficient.
It is. And then there's augmented reality. Picture a technician wearing AR glasses, the kind that overlay digital information onto their view.
I've seen those in, like, tech demos. It's like they have X-ray vision.
Right. They could see step-by-step instructions, 3D diagrams, and even real-time data from the engine, all while working on it.
That would be incredibly helpful, especially for complex repairs.
Absolutely. And it's already being used in some facilities. Then we have the Internet of Things, where sensors embedded throughout the engine are constantly monitoring its performance.
So it's like having a constant health check on the engine.
Exactly. This data feeds into the predictive maintenance systems, creating a really powerful tool for optimizing maintenance schedules.
So data is key in modern MRO.
It's essential.
Okay.
It's not just about collecting it, it's about using it to make better decisions.
So it's not just fixing engines, it's about keeping them running in top shape for as long as possible.
You got it. And all of this is happening as the aviation industry is making a big push towards sustainability.
Yeah, aviation has a bit of a reputation for being not so eco-friendly.
That's true. But the industry is taking steps to change that.
And I guess MRO providers have a big role to play in that.
They do. They're adopting eco-friendly practices, using energy-efficient facilities, exploring sustainable materials, and trying to reduce waste.
So it's about making MRO more environmentally responsible.
Exactly. And at the same time, we're seeing the rise of new markets, particularly in the Asia-Pacific region.
Right, that's a huge region with a rapidly growing economy and a lot of people traveling by air.
Absolutely. It's driving a huge demand for MRO services.
So it's not just the established aviation hubs anymore, it's these emerging markets that are shaping the industry.
Definitely. And on top of all that, there's a growing trend of collaboration within the industry.
What do you mean?
We're seeing OEMs, airlines, and MRO providers working together more closely, sharing knowledge and resources.
So it's less about competition and more about cooperation.
Exactly. Everyone benefits from a safer, more efficient, and more sustainable aviation industry.
This is fascinating. Outsourcing, advanced technology, sustainability, new markets, collaboration, it's all so dynamic.
It really is. The MRO landscape is constantly evolving.
To fully grasp this, though, we need to understand the different business models that make up this market.
You're right. It's not just a one-size-fits-all industry. There are different players specializing in different areas, each with their own strengths and focuses.
Okay, I'm ready to dive into these business models. Let's hear it.
Let's say you're running a small regional airline, flying those Embraer jets you see hopping between cities.
Yeah, those smaller ones.
Right. And you need engine maintenance, but building a whole MRO facility just for you, that's not really feasible.
Way too expensive.
Exactly. That's where independent repair stations come in.
Okay, so they're kind of like the specialists, focusing on specific engine types.
Yeah, think of them like specialized clinics.
For engines?
Right. They offer a more cost-effective option, especially compared to those big OEMs.
The original equipment manufacturer.
Yeah, exactly. So for airlines with specific needs or, a tighter budget, they're a great choice.
Makes sense. So what about like if I'm a private jet owner and need a quick checkup or just a place to park overnight?
Oh, then you probably go to a fixed base operator or FBO.
An FBO. Oh.
Yeah. They're like those one-stop shops you find at usually larger airports, the non-commercial ones.
Right, right.
They handle everything from fueling and hangar space to, yeah, full-service engine MRO if you need it.
Convenient. But I'm guessing the big airlines, the ones with hundreds of planes, they don't really use these smaller places, do they?
Not for everything, no. Those airlines often have their own commercial airline hubs for MRO.
Okay, their own hubs.
Yeah, massive facilities, usually located at their main hub, equipped to handle pretty much anything their fleet needs.
Wow, those must be huge.
They are. It's like a well-oiled machine. Really impressive to see in action.
I bet. So are there like different levels of these hubs? What about regional airlines?
You got it. We also had regional airline facilities.
Okay, makes sense.
Smaller in scale than those big hubs, catering specifically to, well, regional airlines.
So they're more focused on the types of planes and engines those airlines use?
Exactly. And then there's a whole other world of MRO dedicated to military aircraft.
Oh, right, because those are completely different.
Totally. Military MRO facilities, they're often highly specialized,
Yeah.
dealing with, well, the unique demands of those engines and the really strict safety protocols.
Right, because fighter jets and cargo planes, they need something totally different than what a commercial airliner needs.
Absolutely. And then we have, kind of in their own category, in-house corporate facilities.
What are those for?
So these are set up by big corporations that have their own fleet of aircraft.
Like for executive travel?
Exactly. Business travel, transporting executives. They handle all the MRO for their specific needs, making sure their jets are always ready to go.
So we've got everything from small, specialized shops to those giant airline hubs and even military-grade facilities. It's pretty diverse.
It is. And you know what adds another layer of complexity to all this?
What's that?
Aircraft leasing.
Right. We talked about wet and dry leasing earlier. How does that affect who handles the MRO?
Okay, so imagine an airline needs more planes for a short time, like during the holidays.
They need extra capacity.
Right. They might choose a wet lease, which is basically renting a plane that comes with everything, crew, maintenance, you name it.
So it's all inclusive.
Exactly. In this case, the lessor, the one providing the plane, takes care of all the MRO.
Okay, so the airline doesn't have to worry about any of that.
Nope, it's all part of the package. Now, let's say an airline wants to add a new route and needs a plane for a longer time.
So something more long-term.
Right. They might go for a dry lease, where they just rent the plane itself.
Right. So it's more like renting a car. You're responsible for everything else.
Exactly. With a dry lease, the lessee, the airline renting, they take on the responsibility for all the MRO.
Which means more demand for MRO services.
You got it. The type of lease really affects who's responsible for keeping those engines running.
Fascinating. But let's talk about the actual MRO services themselves. What all goes into it?
Well, it's a whole range of things, from routine checks to major overhauls.
Okay, break it down for me.
So the most basic level is line maintenance. This is done during those quick layovers between flights.
So just making sure everything's good to go for the next flight.
Exactly. Line maintenance includes, like, visual inspections, checking fluids, replacing minor parts if needed.
Essential upkeep.
Right. Then you have base maintenance, which is way more extensive.
Okay, more in depth.
Yeah. This is done at dedicated MRO facilities and involves thorough inspections, component repairs, even major overhauls.
So it's like taking your car in for a major service.
Exactly. A good comparison. And then there's the big one, the engine overhaul.
That sounds intense.
It is. This is where they completely disassemble, inspect, repair, and reassemble the entire engine.
Wow, that's a huge job.
It is a major undertaking. Requires specialized tools, highly skilled technicians, a deep understanding of how it all works.
So it's like giving the engine a whole new life.
Exactly. And finally, we have component repair, which focuses on, well, fixing individual engine parts.
Like turbine blades or compressors?
Exactly. Like replacing a worn-out part in your car engine.
So it's a multi-layered approach, from quick checks to those major overhauls. And this whole network of companies keeps the world's aircraft engines running smoothly.
That's right. We mentioned some of the big players before, like GE Aviation and Rolls-Royce.
Yeah, the big names.
But there are so many companies doing amazing work in this field.
Give me some examples.
Well, you have Lufthansa Technik. They're a global leader offering a whole range of MRO services.
Okay, Lufthansa Technik.
Then there's Safran Aircraft Engines. They specialize in, well, propulsion systems, including MRO. And SIA Engineering Company, they're a big player in the Asia-Pacific region.
Catering to that growing market.
Exactly. Oh, and we can't forget Air France Industries, KLM Engineering and Maintenance.
They do engine MRO too.
They do, especially for Airbus aircraft.
Yeah.
And then you have MTU Aero Engines from Germany and ST Aerospace from Singapore. They both focus more on the military side of things.
It's amazing how global this industry is.
It really is. So many companies all over the world contributing their expertise.
It's impressive. But it's not all smooth sailing, is it? We talked about some of the challenges the MRO market is facing, like rising costs and supply chain issues. How are companies dealing with those?
It's tough, that's for sure. MRO is a capital-intensive business. You need a lot of investment in infrastructure, technology, and people.
And skilled labor is hard to find these days.
You're telling me.
Yeah.
And with the global supply chain being what it is, getting parts and components can be a real nightmare.
Leading to delays and higher costs.
Exactly. We saw how the chip shortage affected so many industries, and aviation is no exception.
Right, it's all connected.
And then on top of that, there's the challenge of finding and keeping skilled technicians and engineers.
There's a talent shortage everywhere.
Everywhere. It puts pressure on wages and can really limit how much work MRO providers can handle.
So it's not just about having the best tech, it's about having the right people to use it.
Exactly. The human element is crucial. And one of the biggest challenges lately has been meeting the demand for engine repairs.
You mean there's not enough capacity?
There are long wait times because engine manufacturers are struggling to keep up with the sheer volume of repairs needed.
Wow, so airlines are having to wait longer to get their engines fixed.
They are. This backlog creates opportunities for those independent MRO providers we talked about. They can step in and help fill the gap.
That's good, at least.
It is. But it also shows how tricky it is to balance supply and demand in a market that's growing so fast.
It's a lot to juggle.
It is. But even with all these challenges, the MRO market has a lot of potential.
It does seem like a sector with a bright future.
It is. The companies that can adapt to change, use technology effectively, offer efficient and affordable solutions, and, embrace sustainability, those are the ones that will thrive.
So it's not just about fixing engines anymore. It's about doing it smarter and in a way that's better for the planet.
Exactly. And to understand where this market is going, we need to look at the specific types of engines that will need the most MRO attention in the coming years.
Because different engines have different needs, right?
Absolutely. We've got those workhorse engines, the long-haul champions, and the regional connectors, each with their own unique requirements.
Okay, let's dive into those engine types and see what the future holds for MRO in each category. Okay, so let's break it down by engine type. We've got narrow-body engines, wide-body engines, and regional jet engines. Let's start with those workhorses. Narrow-body engines. What's driving the demand for their maintenance?
Well, you see narrow-body aircraft like the Airbus A320 and Boeing 737 families everywhere.
They're the ones I'm usually on.
Right. They're the backbone of those shorter flights, domestic regional travel.
Yep, makes sense.
And because they're so common, their engines, well, they need a lot of attention, a lot of MRO.
More planes equals more maintenance, right?
Pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
And with all those low-cost carriers popping up and, more and more people flying those shorter routes,
Yeah.
the demand for narrow-body engine MRO is, well, it's going nowhere but up.
Up it is. Okay, so let's talk about the big guys now. The wide-body engines, those are the ones powering those huge planes that fly across oceans.
Exactly. Those long-haul flights like the Boeing 777 or the Airbus A350, those are some impressive engines.
Yeah, those are the ones I take when I'm going to Europe or Asia.
Right. And those engines, they're in a different league, much more complex.
I bet.
They need specialized MRO services to make sure they can handle those long journeys, all those hours in the air.
Right. They need to be able to withstand all sorts of conditions.
Exactly. Extreme temperatures, different altitudes.
Yeah.
And they can't just, stop for a quick fix in the middle of the Atlantic.
No kidding. So this wide-body aircraft MRO market, it must be pretty big.
Oh, it is. Reports say it was valued at, get this, $92.40 billion just last year.
Wow, that's a lot.
And it's expected to reach $127.44 billion by 2032.
That's incredible.
So yeah, these engines are, they're a big deal.
They are. Okay, so we've talked about the workhorses and the heavy hitters. What about those smaller guys, the regional jet engines?
Ah, yes. They might not be as glamorous, but they're essential for connecting those smaller cities and regions,
Right. They open up a lot of possibilities for travel and business.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And as air travel keeps growing, especially in those emerging markets, well, these regional jets, they're going to need more and more MRO attention.
You keep up with the demand.
Exactly. So it's fascinating, right? Each engine type has its own role to play.
It is, and it seems like the MRO industry is ready to support them all.
It is, but as we've talked about, there are challenges,
Right, those rising costs, supply chain issues.
all of that. But the companies that can adapt, innovate, and prioritize sustainability, they'll be the ones shaping the future of this industry.
It's an exciting time to be an MRO, that's for sure.
It is, but at the end of the day, all this technology, the innovation, it all comes back to one thing:
What's that?
safety.
Right, that's the most important thing.
The MRO industry, it's there to make sure every flight takes off and lands safely, connecting people and places all over the world.
It's easy to forget about all the work that goes into that when you're just, sitting on a plane.
Yeah, but there's this whole network of people, processes, and technologies making it all happen.
Working behind the scenes.
Exactly. Every time we step on a plane, we're trusting the MRO industry to keep us safe.
It's a huge responsibility.
It is. And as we wrap up this deep dive, I'd like to leave you with something to think about.
Okay, I'm listening.
How do you think all these trends, the technology, the sustainability focus, the growth in new markets, how will they shape the future of air travel?
That's a great question.
Because the aviation industry is changing, and the MRO sector is right at the heart of it.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting.
It is. So next time you're at the airport, take a moment to think about all the amazing work happening behind the scenes to keep those planes flying.
To keep us safe.
Exactly. And until our next deep dive, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep wondering.
Safe travels, everyone.